Welcome back. 50 years ago, Kiwi Sitting Room started acquiring a new piece of furniture, the television. And this Tuesday marks the first broadcast on June the 1st, 1960 of AKTV2.
Over the next 7 days, we'll be running a series of stories marking the anniversary of television's half-century in this country. First, the very beginning.
Television, I'm sick of it.
Britain and America may have got it in the 1930s, but in 1960, after years of political wrangling, TV finally came our way. The government-controlled NZBS started AKTV2 in Auckland. Ian Watkins was the first ever Kiwi voice heard, and Robin Hood, the first film shown. Soon after, the first female presenter, Elma Johnson, joined the on-air team.
One had no idea of the immense power of television.
The next year, Christchurch got its channel from what was believed to be the smallest TV studio in the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're glad that you're going to be with us on this, the first night of regular viewing from Channel 3 Christchurch.
Wellington and Dunedin followed, but trying to get TV to the rest of the country was a massive job. Building transmitters became a major priority. Another priority was the establishment of an independent news service. That came in 1962 as broadcasting became an independent corporation. The NZBC was born. The first big news story covered was the 1963 Royal Tour. Sports coverage also developed, but live telecasts of rugby matches were strictly forbidden by the rugby union.
I have been asked by journalists whether I would be prepared to place a camera outside of the ground and sneak in on the rugby union. Well, I'm sorry to say that if that is the way the people of this country wish broadcasting to be administered, they've got the wrong Director General.
Entertainment was the key priority, and a wide range of musical programs were produced. At the 5-year anniversary, the effect of TV was put under the microscope.
They just sit around talking at television.
Television was blamed for a drop in reading, church attendance, even strip clubs were affected. And it seems the young.
I very firmly believe that the increase in juvenile delinquency is to a large measure attributable to the television.
In 1965, the programme Town and Around was introduced, bringing a mixture of parish pump-type stories to viewers 5 nights a week. And it also marked the beginning of the developing of news personalities. Compass was the first local current affairs programme. It started in 1964 with frontman Ian Johnston. He remembers how rare it was to interview the then Prime Minister, Keith Holyoake.
He'd be met at the television studios by a long line of functionaries. Then at the end of the line, nervously clutching his question notes, a reporter.
It wasn't until 1966 that the news bosses managed to convince the TV executives that they really had to investigate political issues.
I can't say that anybody's going to be unduly alarmed at the entry of television into politics.
Of course, like today, TV had to pay its way.
Look for Luscious. Whose turn to make coffee tonight? Yours?
While the politicians were arguing about introducing a second channel, the technicians were working on colour. It was introduced in time for the 1974 Commonwealth Games in Christchurch.
We got to join together.
The Games, in almost living colour, were a grand finale for the NZBC. It was dismembered in 1975, broken into separate corporations, and a second channel announced. TV in New Zealand had come of age. And tomorrow we'll remember some of the international newsmakers who shaped the last 50 years.
Looking at our top stories tonight.
It drifts south later on this evening. This is a Pi television, and Paul and Pippa, Paul, Pippa, Peter, you guys could probably tell me more about this than from first-hand experience than I have on my little piece of paper here, but on my little piece of paper it says that the Pi televisions were made in New Zealand and that the first transmissions of television were actually made out of Waihi, which is where Pi was based, and the first one was actually done in 1954. Some of the earliest things that were transmitted from little old Waihi, from the people at Pi, were the Queen's Visit, and also a local rugby game was transmitted as well.
They had actually, you might be surprised, I don't know how many different makes of television were manufactured in New Zealand, but there were quite a few. There were quite a lot of them. And the reason that obviously all of the manufacturers of television had to have their own transmitters. There wasn't countrywide transmission, so they had to actually transmit their own programs to test their TVs to make sure they worked. So they all had to get licenses from the government to run test broadcasts.
And one of the women we've got on later in the program, wasn't her father a tester? So they had all sorts of sets in their home testing, I guess, the signal. That is cool. I cannot tell you anything more.
Anyway, we will talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. But that one actually looks quite small, because those early TVs, they were absolute monsters. You could practically live in them. But that one looks quite... What age is that one, Tamati, do you know?
This one here is a 1972 black and white 20
Oh, yeah, 72. Oh, no, she was getting almost portable in 72. But those early TV sets, I just remember the one being loaded off the truck at our place. It was a monster. In fact, I think I've said before, I spent the first week inside the box it came in, because I'd never seen a box so big. I turned it into a 3-storey playhouse.
It's fantastic. And it looks so simple to operate, doesn't it? Anyone would go up, push the right button, change the channel, change the volume.
Although there was a dial
then you're done.
Around for fine-tuning. You see that dial, you'd clunkety-clunk it to another channel, and then you'd fine-tune it. They were a bit of a nightmare, actually, in the early days. Yeah, you didn't have to worry about other channels to start with, of course. Oh, it's coming up good. Bam. Oh, is the grease really gone? All right, thank you very much, Tamati.
Yes. Interesting, interesting. All right, let's go to Corin now with business.
This morning we've been having a look at a few old TVs that they've got in storage here at the Museum of Transport and Technology. I've got one more that I need to find for you. Paul and Pippa, stay there. This here is a 1980 colour television. It is in fact a...
Philips K9,
I've got the sheet here. A Philips K9. No. This one is a 1980 Ultimate Vidmatic Colour Pi TV with 4 channels. And in fact, this is one that I used to... actually, my auntie, who used to live next door to us, she had one of these, exactly the same. Used to push the buttons for that. Here's the test. Doesn't go.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah, it's plugged in. Oh, power. I pushed the power button. That may help.
Actually, that looks familiar to me as well. I can hear myself out of it.
Hello? 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 There we are. Can you see that? It's really, really
yes.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's you. You're on TV.
We're on TV. You're on TV. You're coming out of there as well.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool. Thank you very much for that, Tamati. It's like an experiment, isn't it? It's like an experiment that's gone very, very well indeed.
It's the simple things, isn't
it? The Philips K9, that was one of those, like the Hoover, that was one of those sort of, what am I trying to say, landmark products? It was one of those iconic products, wasn't it? Thank you for your feedback.
Yes.
Before we go to the feedback...
Celebrate 50 years of New Zealand television.
Well, this is typical. I mean, Brendan gets to go to the Melbourne Wine and Food.
Hayden, we're rolling.
We're on. Hello there. Listen, welcome to the car park. This is our car park. This is where all my fans come and park before coming to see me. They're a little late today. This is our home. This is Avalon. It was built in 1976. It used to be the epicentre of news and current affairs in television in New Zealand. And now, guess what? It's our home. I'm going to show you around. Come with me. Whoa, look at those smoking hot people. This means you've made it to the reception of Good Morning. Well done, team. Now, this is John. He's in charge of security, keeping the fans at bay. Any fans?
That one was here yesterday. Been and gone.
She's gone. I think she's stalking Brendan. That's another story. Anyway, there's heaps to look around at. Let's come and have a look. As part of our Flash behind-the-scenes tour, this is one of those Flash behind-the-scenes television corridors. Heaps of famous people have walked down here, but really, it's just a normal corridor. But it does lead to dressing rooms. It's a little tangy in here, but come on in. This is Brendan's dressing room now. Few features. Check out the artwork. Brendan looks at that, just kind of staring, contemplating his broadcasting future. This is his bike. He's a very fit guy. Come on in, a bit further. Look at this. This is his plethora of shirts. He's a colourful guy. And this, there is stinky socks. But come on in, this is like the coup de grace. If you're a television presenter, you get your own shower. Look at that. Look at those assorted, I don't know what they are, shampoos, conditioners, some sort of stuff. But this here is the royal toilet. Every morning at 5 to 7, I can hear Brendan Pongia going to the loo. Good night. Look at this. This is the makeup department. Heaps of famous people come in here, people with their tops off. That's probably the dancing set. They've always got their tops off, that lot. Anyway, come over here. There's someone special you've got to meet. She's the person who makes us look like beautiful in the morning. Well, as best as she can do with what she's got to work with. G'day, Deb. How are you?
Good morning.
You've been here for how many years?
25 years.
25 years. You've put makeup on for prime ministers,
Yes.
stars.
Yes, lots of celebrities over the years.
What about Rob Muldoon? How did you handle? Because he had that kind of thing. How did you? Was that easy to put makeup on?
He was okay. He was quite jovial actually. I worked in at the Beehive quite a bit.
He was good fun.
Yeah, he was good fun. Pretty much all of the Prime Ministers, but one thing in particular I have noticed over the years is once they become Prime Minister, they look fantastic, they look beautiful and fresh, and then slowly but surely the bags start coming in. They need a little bit more makeup just to give them that edge.
As the job gets to them.
Yeah, the workload, the long hours.
And who's the easiest of the Good Morning crew to have in the chair?
Oh, you, of course.
There you go, that's pretty true. Right, we've got to run. We've got heaps to look at in such a short time. Thank you very much. I'll be back in for some blusher. So this is Master Control. Now, I've been reliably informed it's like a television roundabout where everything's got to come through this room right here before it gets to you at home. And joining me, gosh, I love these chairs, is Ron Pledger. Now, you were the man who was at the very first television broadcast in Wellington 49 years ago.
Yeah, well, Auckland had been running for a year by then, but yeah, well, 1st of July 1961, WNTV1 started from the We're in Taylor Street studio, a very old radio studio in Wellington, considerably different from what ours looks now. Being the youngest on the staff, I was operating the sound desk on that opening night, which is doesn't seem like 50 years ago, but almost is. Yeah.
And you've worked on some great shows like Top Town and This Is Your Life, and they were kind of defining shows for society at the time, weren't they? Like they were.
They were, yeah, right through the 80s. It was pretty heady time for production. There was an awful lot of production being done, and of late, I've been producing Praise Be for TVNZ, so that's the Sunday morning hymn singing program.
Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day for us.
No problem, Hayden. So,
now, we've got to run. We've got more to see. Oh, always wanted one of these. Oh, this looks pretty nice too. Look at this. So much spare technology. It's not the flashiest lift going, but it's very Maxwell Smart functional. There you are. How do you always get in front of me? I'm not sure how that works. But come in here. This is fantastic. This is the big granddaddy. This is Studio 8 here at Avalon. And this is where Dancing with the Stars was filmed. Do you remember Brendan and Hayley sashaying around the beautiful floor here? Bit of a, well, that's not how you do it, but clearly. But, you know, that's what they did. I think they got 4.
No need to ask, he's a smooth operator. Smooth operator.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We're going to go in for Control Suite. This is where, like, the people that control the show do the controlling. Like, because we're vacuous TV presenters, we don't have any original thoughts. They all come from in here. This is like our brain. Let's have a look.
I think we have a guess.
Now, this is a control room. This is where, like, things are controlled. We're not in control. These guys are actually in control. This is Christina. She tells me to wrap it up when I've gone on too long.
Yeah, wrap it up, Hayden.
That's what it sounds like, but usually with a bit more venom. And this is Jim Curry. Jim is the guy who makes the show work. I don't know how he does it. How do you do it?
Beats me. But I do my best. I mean, here's the script that we prepare, you know, often days, weeks, hours beforehand. And that's the planned part of it. And I guess my job is to make sure that that coordinates with the unplanned, you know, spontaneous part of it.
Television is actually quite a messy business, isn't it? People are going everywhere. There's lights, there's camera, sound. That's the only bits that I know. But and what about when things go wrong?
That's when you earn your money.
Are you good in a crisis?
I'm only good in a crisis.
And this is our home. This is Studio 11. Hey, Nigel. That's Nigel, our sound guy. He keeps the sound stuff so we can hear things. And come over here and meet, like, my second mum. This is my second... No, my second mum's a mother-in-law. This is my third mum.
The third mum.
This is Gordon Crosby. You are the stage manager.
No, I'm the floor manager.
Oh, I'm not even sure of her title, but she's the boss. That's all I know. Do you love this job?
I love it, yeah. I love meeting people, and the crew are great. Yeah, no, it's great.
The crew are great. Come and have a look at the crew. See, this is where the crew normally sit, but they're off having a cup of tea. Apparently, we're allowing that these days. And come over here, one final thing. This is my 4th month. Just after my mother.
Back here.
This is a beautiful Esther getting ready for a show.
It's so much better than I was about half an hour ago, Hayden. I fall out of bed at 4 o'clock, I fall onto the car at 5, I fall onto the plane at 6, and now I'm here at 7:30. And I don't know that I appreciate you people first thing in the morning.
Yeah, we're not sure if that's going to make the edit or not. We're waiting to see.
Are we?
Yeah.
So, what exactly are you up to, and why is it that you never come to help me?
Hold that thought. Come over here. So this is a kitchen. Come in behind the kitchen. It's quite exciting. Like, it's actually a real fridge. Like, you know, when you probably wondered at home whether or not it's a real fridge. And look at this. Even though it's a real fridge.
Of course it's a real fridge.
The fruit.
That's my decorating. Get away.
It's plastic, see? But apart from that, everything else... Oh, I'll get that in later. Don't worry about that. This is the oven, where many a presenter have burnt themselves. It's actually a real oven. Microwave. Everything is in here. It's a custom-made kitchen. You can come over here. I'll meet you over this side. This is a performance area. No, what do they call this area? Demo. Sorry, the demo area. I'm just the new guy. And this is where Asta makes all the crafts. It's really just, you know, this is a behind-the-scenes tour. It's just a bench. But come over here, have a look at this, finally. Stay with me, Wiggles. This is the couch. This is where, like, whoa, careful, that's a camera, another camera. This is the couch. This is where it all happens. And if you come and sit here, Wiggles, you have a seat. This is what you see at home. Ad-lib, older people having kids. And that's what we see. So we see that, you see us. It's a bit of a stare-off.
Good job, Hayden. Now, the one thing,
really cool.
You never asked me to go to my dressing room.
No, that was unsolicited.
Sarah and our dressing room's a lot smaller than Hayden's, and you need actually 2 cameras to get into his dressing room. So I'll show you that. He's got lights all around his mirrors.
He does.
So that he's looking top.
I have got light bulbs around my mirrors. It's blinding.
Good job, good job. So there you go, people at home.
Week, Andrew and I are going to be looking at beautiful ball gowns. It's nearly ball season. Well, we're paying homage to all the folks behind the scenes who've brought us half a century of TV. Here's a special message from our very own Jane Vaughan.
Hi, I'm Jane Vaughan, and I've been a camera operator for TVNZ, based here at Avalon Studios for 28 years. Standout memories for me have been the programs I have recorded on location in the provincial areas of New Zealand. The likes of It's in the Bag, Top Town, Praise Be, and my all-time favourite, the series of A Dog Show, particularly the year we went to Mangamingi, which is in the South Taranaki district. So hello to everyone in Mangamingi. A real thrill for me coming from the city. Being a part of these productions has left a lasting impression on me of the beauty of our country and the friendly communities out there. So happy 50th birthday, New Zealand Television.
Oh, Jane, that's so lovely. And of course, Jane is on camera today working with us, and she's such a pleasure to work with, as is all our crew here at Avalon. Well, coming up, Goji.
The 50th anniversary of the official launch of television in New Zealand. And all this week, we're running stories marking this milestone.
So tonight, a trip down memory lane, remembering some of the key international newsmakers from the past 50 years.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade. President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Get back to where you once belonged.
Loneliness and that being unwanted, unloved, having no one to care, to call your own. I think that is the greatest disease in the world today.
I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Good afternoon, Prime
Prime Minister.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope.
Imagine all the people living for today.
I'm amazed that she's been brave enough to take me on. And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
I always wanted to create a political lobby for change and to also prove that the individual can affect change and that people are not powerless to affect things on this.
I want to thank Sir Robert and all New Zealanders for the key role they play in the South Pacific, a region which should serve as a model for the rest of the world.
Well, now for the first time I can tell you that you're a disaster.
Above us only sky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Now is the time for celebration, for South Africans to join together to celebrate the birth of democracy. We have had a good fight, but now this is the time to heal the old wounds and to build a new South Africa.
I've just accepted Her Majesty the Queen's kind offer to form a new administration of government in this country.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. The United States have prevailed.
Seconds from his death, he's repeating verses from the Quran. This is where the video ends.
But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
And tomorrow night, won't they?
Well,
not the government, but the
and
mafia.
a free trade agreement might not help circumvent all of those. Anyway, up next for you, we look at why the director of The Hobbit quit and find out about the state of our film industry. But first up, the tune that used to put you to bed. Good night, Kiwi.
800 888 999 and we'll come to you.
Well, that clip you just saw, yes, that was from 70s Kids TV show Hey Hey, It's Andy. And here is Andy Shaw, a household name. Since then, he's been very, very, very busy behind the camera and has climbed the television ladder to his current position as Head of Commissioning, Production and Acquisitions at TVNZ, and he joins us now.
It was a cruel clip, wasn't it?
You were very, very young at the time.
Cruel. Time is a cruel mistress, as Paul would know.
What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, his teeth may have developed, but little else has changed.
Tomorrow
yes.
is your 35th anniversary from your first appearance on television.
Yeah, yeah, 35 years.
And you were very, very, obviously very, very young at the time.
I was 18 when I started out on it, yeah.
How did you get into it?
You know, in those halcyon days, television networks advertised in the newspaper.
Really?
Would you like to be a host? Please apply now.
And did people not want to be hosts?
Lots of people did. And I remember, you know, the lifelong memory of going to an audition and there were all these terribly talented people, and people with violins and, you know, wandering around the place doing stretches and doing singing and thinking, what am I doing here? I'm just a kid from West Auckland. But clearly the network was broke and didn't need a violinist and saw something, I don't know,
And you could make goofy faces.
Well, you know, I blamed that on a young man called Peter Grattan, who was a producer of the time. And Peter had flashes of brilliance. That wasn't one of them.
But it was a well-loved show. We know that because when we started getting people back to reminisce about things, your name kept popping up again and again. Do people recognise you?
Well, I'm like the guy on the IGA store, you know, like it's just a face you remember from a time. I mean, it was a pioneering time. It was the birth of a new channel. There was only TV1 until we started with TV2, and so in a market where you only had the 2 channels, you got prominence, you got notoriety.
And it was fun, but you knew that it had...
Well, there were no rules. I mean, I had exactly 2 rehearsals before I started that show, and little of what I would call adult supervision. If it seemed like a good idea...
You just did it.
We just did it. Some things I think back on now, like I remember getting a clip of a band of a show in the UK called Old Grey Whistle Test, and I thought, oh, these are good. And playing it, and not thinking about it, I gave it to the tape op and said, we'll play this now, this will be good. And the lyrics came on, and then, that's a bit dodgy. That's at 3:30 in the afternoon. Yeah. And then there was a scene where the singer seemed to have an inflatable doll attached to his crutch. Oh. And I thought, this could get a letter.
And did it?
It did got a letter.
Did the Broadcasting Standards Authority
No,
exist?
we got away with... Nobody seemed to worry too much. I think they were quite surprised, but
yeah,
it was just fun.
Things have changed a lot, but you have stayed in the industry, but behind the scenes.
Yeah.
What is your job? What do you do now exactly?
Well, I shouldn't really say it on a television program that might receive, public acclaim, but I buy all the programming for the channels. So for TV1 and 2, 6 and 7, and the online service, and I lead a team of talented commissioners who order all of the local shows, other than news and current affairs, I might add. Otherwise, there'd be some changes.
So the Shortland Streets, for example?
Yes.
What are your favourites?
My favourites? Well, I think, Shortland Street has to be one of my favourite New Zealand shows because I think it lays claim to being, it's the home of New Zealand drama. It was a huge undertaking for TV2 at the time, and New Zealand On Air backed it, bravely. To do a daily soap, we'd never done it before, at least not since, the close to home attempts, and it has really generated, the style, the actors, the writers. It's the birthplace, and it continues to be the growing place of New Zealand drama. Actors both in front of the screen and writers. It's a wonderful show, and now you look, every night, nearly half the country watches it.
And we have significant local content now.
We have a lot more than we used to have. Although, there have been times where local was far more dominant. Because, international, it varies. There are growth spurts for international and there are down periods for local.
You talk about the days when there used to be just 2 channels. Now there is huge competition, not just from TV channels, but all sorts of other media. So where are we going to be in even 10 years' time? Well,
I think the most important thing about television, and I think you see it when you look back at some of these shows, is it's a gathering place. It's great that, there's, distribution is now ubiquitous, isn't it? Whether it's internet or free TV or cable or pay or whatever, then there's a 100-channel universe or a 300-channel universe. There has to be a place where community gathers, where you go electronically to connect with other people in your country, in your community. And free-to-air television has always been that place. And I strongly believe that will continue.
Just finally, your appointment viewing.
My appointment viewing? Anything I'm on.
From breakfast,
no. Breakfast every day. First thing, I get up at 5:30 and I watch the business news so that I can feel broke, and then I watch you. I watch a lot of stuff before it goes on air, so for me, there's not a lot of appointment viewing, but Desperate Housewives, sorry. Go Girls, got to.
Yes.
Shortland Street, have to. The news, I feel I've got to watch the news just to see what you people are doing.
Keep an eye on us.
That's right. Things like that. Those are the big dramas, I'm a big Criminal Minds fan, I'm Flash Forward,
Okay, so you spend all of your time watching TV.
Yes, I do.
And we can watch you again now after
Sadly?
30 plus years.
Why would you?
Well, I'm sure many people would. On Heartland.
Yeah, well, we're launching a new pay channel tonight. It's 100% New Zealand content. I mean, I think it's a great channel because it's not only entertainment, but it's a history lesson. But also, it's a testament to the commitment made by Television New Zealand over 50 years, because the channel couldn't exist if it wasn't for generations of commissioners and broadcasters who felt that it was critical in this small country that we told our story.
That we have our story and it's on Heartland and you're on tonight.
I'm indeed.
Brilliant.
Up against the news, sadly. I don't expect big numbers.
We look forward to it. Andy, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Andy
You're very
Shaw.
welcome.
Andrew Shaw. A lot of very nervous people go into Andrew's suite of offices upstairs and a lot of very dejected faces come out. So what do you think of it? It's crap. It's very honest. Coming up next on Breakfast, how one Kiwi scientist is helping pave the way for future space travel.
I'm a missile designer. Tense work, close quarters, a lot of people. I can't take chances, even on things like perspiration odor. I use something...
Yes, there is smiles on the couch. It's one of those days. Cheers to 50 years, everyone. And joining me to celebrate is our panel of, I'm not going to say veteran, I'm going to say experienced broadcasters, Bob Parker, Roger Gascoigne and Dougal Stevenson. Welcome in, guys.
That's very
you guys,
kind of
the
you,
giggling has started straight away. You obviously spent a lot of time working together.
Wasn't he winsome?
Winsome.
Winsome Wodger. Thank you. Yes. And good too. Here I am sitting between the doyen and his worship, you know.
Yeah. Has it been nice?
We always knew he'd come to a sticky end.
He's the only one who got a real job.
Well, I'm a pensioner.
Okay, eyes up, attention, please. How does it feel today? Is it?
It's been one of the. Actually, it's far more amazing than I imagined coming back here because you know I've been to the odd reunion along the way, but coming back into the Hutt Valley today, up the motorway, and seeing the Avalon Tower and walking in and seeing these guys, it does take you back, and it makes me think what a special time we actually had in those days.
And my car found its way here perfectly easily. Yeah, it's quite remarkable.
I was in this building the other day, and I came out of the old newsroom and walked straight down the corridor, past the new exit to the old swing doors, and somebody said, "Not that way, dude." Oh, I said, "That's the way I used to go." That's how much this building sort of lives in you.
Yeah. Not long after that, his walking frame got tangled. It was terrible.
It did.
What?
That was bad.
Rusted away in the Hutt River, and they wouldn't give me a taxi check.
Are you guys a little bit proud of your legacy? Because you do have a legacy. All the viewers who look at today will go,
really?
Legacy.
A dangerous word, I know, but you know what I mean.
Really, we said modesty.
Proud.
Yes, is the short answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very proud of what I did, but only because I enjoyed myself so much doing it.
We got paid to watch television. I mean, how good was that? We sat here night after night. This is a continuity analysis.
But they don't pay us to watch television anymore.
Not news presenters.
No.
But we just had the best time, goofing off.
It was a good life, and it was interesting, and we were and sometimes pioneering new stuff and doing new types of shows and exploring live television and working with about 700 or 800 people, all focused on doing the same thing in this remarkable set of buildings.
And this guy goes away to Los Angeles and gets the rights to This Is Your Life, flies back to New Zealand, and they went, "No, you haven't."
Yes, that's
right. And he goes,
Yes,
I have. "No, you haven't." "Yes, I have."
Roger, very nice segue. Let's have a look at a little clip of This Is Your Life from back in the day.
Gentlemen, would you please welcome Selwyn and Cynthia Toogood. Tell me, Selwyn, did we have you fooled?
You certainly had me fooled because you ruined my whole week. I was supposed to be in Auckland, and then that was all changed, and I wondered why. But it just didn't occur to me that it was This Is Your Life.
Well, I tell you what, standing beside you right now is one of the best actors that has ever been seen in the world today. Your wonderful wife, Cynthia, who has been so much support to you throughout all those years of your career, a tremendous career it's been, kept the secret perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It's never been the same, has it, This Is Your Life? You were the true...
Well, it wasn't the same for me because I wasn't involved in it. So it definitely changed for me. But look, I think one of the things that we had that made it really special was we'd never done anything like that about Kiwis before. We'd never really celebrated Kiwis on the telly in that way. And the fact that they were live shows added a certain magic. So, yeah, look, it was a real thrill to be part of that project. And I was a lucky guy.
Did they ever know? Did they ever get a sneak in?
No. I don't think anybody ever knew. The closest we maybe came was John Walker, when there was a lot of speculation in the media in Auckland about that. And, you know, we had half of the world's greatest milers sort of hidden in a house up in Greenhithe somewhere, and they would go out jogging. It's like, if only someone recognises that, the show is blown. But no, amazingly, I think we got everybody there. uncertain that they were actually going to be on a show.
What'd you pay for the rights?
Oh, mate, you're going back a long way into the textbook, checkbook secrets. But I think originally it wasn't a lot of money. It was maybe a few $1,000s to get the opportunity. And then we paid per show as we went. So it didn't set me back a fortune, but it was a good coup at the time. But as Roger was saying, nobody believed I had the rights. I haven't. No, you haven't. Flying back on a plane with Des Monahan. Remember Des?
Well, he was
and I ran into him and I said, I got the rights for This Is Your Life. And he said, oh, now listen, Bob. He says, a lot of people tell you strange things in America. You don't want to believe that. Yeah.
Wow. Now, Dougal, you were here when this started. Let's have a quick little look.
When what started?
Make a magnificent sound. Ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome. Television One is here at last. Television with its own identity. So now that we've got it, let's not waste any more time. We have 2 hours ahead of programs, of personalities. You'll see some old favourites, you'll see some new faces.
April 75, Mrs. Jones was heavily pregnant with Hayden Jones, and you were opening Avalon Television Studios.
Is there a connection there?
Not at
all. No, it's a long time ago, Hayden.
Can I just talk about, because I know this is a celebration and a happy time, but also, you don't stay on television a long time. I've been here 5 minutes, I may only be here 6. And for all of you, there was a demise. I know, Dougal, the news went to Auckland, and you were asked to come to go to Auckland, and you stayed.
Yes, they left me a note and I didn't follow it up. I was furious, very, very angry at that time, Hayden, because we had had a very successful news organisation, and everybody here in this building had been led to believe how successful we were, rightly or wrongly. We were having a good time, as Bob said, weren't we? Together.
Yeah.
I mean, I could run into these guys in the studio and in the passages of this building every day.
Yeah, good day.
So they take it to Auckland, and I couldn't understand why.
You stayed with the crew, which is
I thought I lost my job. Oh, I don't know.
No, he's a loyal sort of a bloke, a special kind of a guy.
Particularly loyal. I also had a family to consider, of course.
Did you guys see the demise coming at all?
Pretty much,
yeah. I think so.
You'd really have to be impaired not to see it coming.
It was always going to change because, you know, when we started, there was one network in the NZBC days, and then there were two, and you would get shows that would rate 45 to 50%, you know, of the whole country watching. Today, you've got how many dozens?
300 channels.
Yeah, plus the web, plus everything else.
And that's the key to it.
When, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, no,
I'm terribly sorry. You see how polite we used to be? Mind you, outside the studio. When Muldoon stepped saying that why are the two news crews at my news conferences, I began to think the writing is on the wall. They're going to amalgamate the administrations and...
Sure enough.
You all do, well, some of you do vastly different things. You're still in the public eye as the Mayor of Christchurch, Te Papa, and you're into your painting.
I am.
Is your life richer now? Or I think, do you, not monetarily wise, but I mean, you know...
No. No, I just think it's in balance. My great problem back in those years was identity or celebrity or whatever you want to call it, but it became unmanageable, and I really started to fret about it, and quite frankly I walked away from television a couple of times just trying to manage it. I'd have to go overseas to have a holiday because you couldn't go around New Zealand anywhere without, can I have your autograph? You know, and which...
At least people weren't throwing things at you, mate.
Why did you choose that in the end? Choose to make yourself so vulnerable in politics?
Yeah, no, I just, you know, I never planned to get into local government at all.
Oh, tush. Really?
No, I just got involved in a little heritage issue once, and then one thing led to another, and it wasn't that I ever thought, that's what I'll do one day. I mean, I just thought I would be living down somewhere in Christchurch, Banks Peninsula, and maybe run a little B&B or something like that.
But there's an artistic side to you, as there is to Roger.
No, it's Jim. He wants equal time.
What's this? I was wondering that...
Hey, guys, well, I'll tell you what, yesterday I opened a building and Tim Shadbolt turned up at Christchurch. I said, Tim, I hope you're not looking for a job as well.
Sorry, just before we go, we should just pay a very quick mention to the late Peter Sinclair as well. And,
sure.
What are your thoughts of him, or memories of him?
The master.
Absolutely.
The definitive presenter. I just wanted to be that guy, and I was lucky I got to live that dream with pop shows and so on. But he was the benchmark. He was awesome.
He was, and what a benchmark.
Yeah.
And he was so professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was one of those people that you know, didn't really fade out. Because in this business, there's always a fade-out point comes along, you know, a fade to black. I don't think that ever existed for Peter.
No.
He just went along at the same level. He was at the heart of so much.
What surprised me was that people were surprised in how good Peter was and his longevity. He was.
The crew here talk about him being the ultimate professional.
Yeah, I think that's pretty true.
That's true.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, I see.
Very good. Hey guys, I'm very sorry. I'm apologetic. We have to wrap this up.
That's okay.
You remember people in your ear saying, wrap it up,
actually, we didn't have that.
No, but cryogenically you were talking about it before.
There'd be Lissa going.
The ice is ready outside for the 100th, apparently. Just melt us down for the 100th, and we'll all pop up.
Now, Roger, you're going to hang around. We're going to check in with Stu Dennison. That's going to be
that'll be fun. Nice one.
A lot of fun with Nice One, Stu. That's going to be a lot of fun. And it's a lot of heaps. Oh, I've got a remote. Now, these guys reckon that they can't see it, this thing. They can't see the auto cue, so they can't read it. But this is the remote. Now, because we're celebrating 50 years of television, we've got one to give away. Now, we're giving you the chance to win one of 5 Logitech Harmony 600 remotes. They're each worth $100. Now, what it does, apparently it replaces, you've got 5 remotes on your coffee table. This replaces all of them.
Oh, I'm into that.
Who wouldn't want one of these? It's compatible with more than 225,000 different electronic products such as... Hold on. Oh, sorry. Whew. I need a dragnet or something in here. Now, it replaces all sorts of products such as DVD, Wi-Fi, music devices. To win one, we're going to have to watch the show very closely, because as we go to each break, we're going to ask you a trivia question about Kiwi TV, and all you need to do is look out for the answers, write them down, and go to our website, and the more correct answers you submit, the greater chances you have of winning. Now, here's your first question. The year was 1980, and the show was W3. Who was the presenter?
Good afternoon and welcome to the W3 National Final for 1980. Over 39 weeks of this year...
He's kept a very powerful position. He's stayed the boss in a lot of places, hasn't he? Now, coming up, something a little different. Robin Martin is going to be in with Slow Cookers. She's making a delicious bacon, bean and pumpkin...
Oh, 50 years ago today, television officially began in New Zealand.
While we might be a small country in a far-flung corner of the South Pacific, New Zealand has produced more than its fair share of newsmakers who have hit the headlines here and overseas.
We pay tribute to them in tonight's celebration of half a century of Kiwi TV.
Frankly, I don't know any deal that I've ever made privately or publicly that satisfied me and that I got all I hoped for.
Tonight I am feeling for you.
It's really been fantastic to be a free man after the hardship that I've been through over the years, being convicted of a double murder and innocent of.
We are creating something wrong. To me, if they want a good march, peaceful march, to Parliament. That's where you get all results. Place your take, place your what you want to Parliament.
Five of them down the back, unrepentant. Good on you. That's loyalty. Not all that bright, but it's loyal.
That doesn't give him much time to run up to an election, Prime Minister.
Doesn't give my opponents much time to run up to an election, does it?
And I'm going to give it to you if you hold your breath, just for a moment. I can smell the uranium on it as you lean towards it.
Describing his clients, Mr. Curry said Mafar had a concern for the quality of the environment and an interest in marine ecology. And Prieur was like New Zealand housewives. She cooked, shopped, knitted and made jam.
We take an important step in healing the grievances of the past and moving forward to a new era of development and prosperity.
7 people are confirmed dead from David Malcolm Gray's shooting rampage through the small Otago town of Aramoana.
The man carried from the family home in a distressed state on Monday morning is a man in custody tonight. David Bain is charged with the murder of his parents, his 2 sisters and his brother.
It's fantastic to be back in New Zealand, the new home of the America's Cup.
Jenny Shipley clearly happy to have Bill Clinton on the ground. A warm moment with Burton Shipley and daughter Anna.
New Zealand's first elected woman Prime Minister.
I think the BBC should realise this is 2002, not 1642. In New Zealand, evening trousers are considered very elegant, and I'm fortunate to be able to wear them.
It's a clean sweep. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
Oh, this is just unbelievable, and I'm so honoured, touched and relieved that the Academy and the members of the Academy that have supported us have seen past the trolls and the wizards and the hobbits and are recognising fantasy this year.
A very emotional day, and it's very humbling, and I feel very proud and honoured to be able to wear this for my country.
And the #1 reason you should visit New Zealand.
Unlike most of the world, we still like Americans.
I've had 2 wonderful wives. You can't do better than that. And no, I've had a very good life and an exciting one, many good adventures.
Tomorrow, veteran broadcaster Peter Williams remembers some of his highlights from the first 50 years of New Zealand television.
And tonight, TVNZ launches its 5th channel, TVNZ Heartland, which screens on the Sky platform.
Well, looking at our top stories tonight, a New Zealand...
Next on Breakfast, can lighting up really cause the blues? We examine the link between smoking and depression when we come back.
Good evening, I'm Ken Ellis.
And I'm David McPhail.
And tonight we answer the question that's on everyone's lips. Just what is Bill Rolling really like in bed?
And now an exclusive to a week of it, the Prime Minister getting a lay.
For the rest of the country. Now, we have got a special guest this morning. She was a lady that read the weather on television news here in New Zealand from 1975 to 1986, and we managed to track down a wee clip of how the weather used to be presented. Have a look at this.
Good evening. The weather picture today was dry in the east of the North Island, cloudy practically everywhere else, with further rain in the south of the country, also around Wellington, Marlborough and Nelson. Let's look at our temperatures now. We had a high of 17 degrees from Kaitaia, a low of 3 from Ranfurly, 15 in Hamilton, 13 from New Plymouth, no reading today though from Wanganui, 14 in Palmerston North, 12 in Wellington and Blenheim, 7 from Nelson, no reading either from Westport, 9.
That there was Sue Scott, and she joins us this morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tamati. It's so good to meet you in person.
Did that take you back?
It did. The hair did. The hair. I mean, can you get over the hair? The beehive?
It was quite buffy, wasn't it?
It was very buffy, actually. and the problem is that you've got to be really careful with lighting because the light can kind of shine right through it. But look, I'm a different colour now.
Yes, you're blonde all of a sudden.
I live out of a bottle.
Okay,
I don't mind admitting it, really.
Now, you were doing weather for all of that time. Tell me, one question that I always get asked was, are you a trained weather person? Are you a trained meteorologist?
Not a trained meteorologist, but we did have to in those days. We did have to do a test with the meteorological people, and it was always a conundrum, really. Are we communicators doing the weather, or do meteorologists come and become communicators? And there was a little kind of a hiatus for a while where the meteorologists did think that they should be presenting the weather. And I know Karen Olsen is a meteorologist and she does a great job, but we did have to. We were basically trained as communicators, as presenters. For a long time in those days, we were trained as well. And the meteorology was something that we had to learn, definitely.
Okay. But I've got to say, in watching that clip and in seeing the stuff that we kind of do today, it's a lot more personality-driven these days, whereas then it was more like a public service, wasn't it?
Very much so, and I was never up at this hour in the morning either in those days, I must say. But very much, we were public servants. We were part of the NZBC, and then it became TV1 and then TV2, as you know. And we were trained in that sort of mode, really, so that personality didn't really come into it at all. I mean, we weren't really on the kind of covers of magazines. Well, I think actually we were at one stage, but it wasn't a common occurrence, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, Sue Scott is going to be giving me some tips over the next half an hour, and the next time you see me, I will be going...
Oh, now this is more like it.
The old style. I'm putting on the shirt and the tie, I'm putting on some glasses, we're going upstairs, and we're going to find a pointer as well, and we've got a map all lined up to do the weather way they used to.
Have you got, Tamati, a little handful of Velcro clouds and rain and things like that?
We do have a handful of Velcro clouds and suns and rain and all of that kind of thing. It will be interesting.
Somebody's got a good memory.
That's so
Somebody does.
Does Sue still have a pointer stick?
Do you still have a pointer stick?
I don't have a pointer stick. I thought you'd have a pointer stick.
I will find a pointer stick.
You better find a pointer stick. It wouldn't be the same without a pointer stick, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Okay then, all right, I'm finding the pointer stick.
You get to it, Tamati. We look forward to that.
Officially called pointer sticks? We're all using the term.
Maybe just a pointer or a stick.
A pointer or a stick.
We look forward to that. Let's just show you quickly because we've just...
Be a close-up and stop messing about. Now, the important thing about this... You think that's funny, do you? Like a little joke, do you? Hmm? Well, I've got a little joke. I've got a little joke. Funny enough for you. And look at the weight. Look, 3 cameras when one could be doing the job. You're fired. Look at all the lights. They don't know there's an energy crisis in television. Turn them off. All right, who's the smart aleck? Let there be light.
Robert Muldoon's take on the largesse of television. As you would know, New Zealand's very first television show graced our screens 50 years ago yesterday. Margaret Gowdy, Madge to her friends, was the makeup artist who powdered the noses and combed the eyebrows of our first television presenters and guests. And we are honoured to have her in the studio now. Margaret, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul.
Can I call you Madge?
Yes, you may.
Now, even before the whole makeup thing, you have the very first body part that appeared on live television in New Zealand, don't you?
That's correct.
And you brought it in with you?
Yes, I have.
Which body part is it?
It's my right hand.
Ooh. All right, now, you rehearsed, because this was a huge moment, wasn't it?
Oh, a very big moment.
The entire country that had television was sitting there waiting to see a body part.
Yes. And they had a door that was going to open television to New Zealand for the very first time.
And that was the concept, wasn't it? That the door was opening to television.
New
Someone's
Zealand.
hand had to open it.
Someone's hand, and they had... I was the only female there. And they wanted a female bare arm. So they asked me if I would come and rehearse the knock, which I did. And then, eventually, when it came on live, I knocked. So this is my hand that went first on television.
I need to touch it. Were you very, very nervous?
No, I was concentrating on my work. I had all the makeup to do. It was black and white in those days, very different from today.
Well, it wasn't very hard though, Madge, was it? Because you have a copy of your television makeup for black and white and colour from Max Factor, and I've had a look at what you had to do, and if we can zoom in on this, this is the black and white page. Almost all of them were men.
Yes.
And you can see that this is all you have to do here. You've got the men here, and you just have to put all of those things on them, whether they're light, dark or medium.
Yes, but you had to do shading areas. For instance, your bearded area, which is you can't see on television, but on black and white television, a freshly shaved man, that would show through.
It's sort of,
And we had to shade that down. And then you'd have to highlight each shading down. So it was a matter of shading and highlighting.
So what you're saying is it wasn't as easy as the Max Factor book makes it look.
No.
What do you think of my makeup now?
Very good.
Is it all right?
Yes, excellent.
What did you make of our makeup room that you were in?
Oh, it was wonderful. I enjoyed very much having my makeup done there.
Because, of course, in the very early days, they had trained you. You'd gone to Australia, I think, hadn't you?
Yes, I went to Australia and learned the craft of TV, black and white television makeup. Then I went in and worked in the studios in Sydney and worked with the makeup artists.
So they had thought to train you, but they hadn't thought to give you a makeup room?
No, we came back to New Zealand and there were 13 broadcasting men, radio men, and myself. They'd been in Australia learning television, and Max Factor had sent me to Australia to learn. And when we came back, it was quite a Mickey Mouse outfit. There was nothing proper studio, and so they formed a studio, but then they thought the makeup artists, no room for the makeup artists, so we used the ladies' toilet.
Well, you were the only lady.
Yes, but all the men had to be made up. I had to make up the presenter, Ian Watkins.
So when you actually needed to use the toilet, did you have to close the makeup room?
The makeup, the ladies' toilet had a big rest area and lots of good lighting. That's why we chose it, because there was no other room.
What was the thought back then with your Kiwi male being made up? Did they enjoy being made up?
Oh yes, they did very much.
Perhaps a little too much.
Yes, I enjoyed the Howard Morrison Quartet wanted makeup on. They didn't need as much because of the colour of their skin, because the lighting took the colour out of the skin.
So how did you... Oh, so that's tricky. So the Howard Morrison Quartet come up to you and say, oh, we'd like some makeup.
Yes.
You know that they don't need it. How did you handle that sensitive moment?
Well, I just powdered their shiny skin down and their Brill cream hair, because they had Brill cream greased on their hair down. So I just powdered their face and powdered their hair because the lights would shine and reflect any shine.
Tell me about, just finally, tell me about the excitement around those first few weeks, because the whole country was holding its breath for television.
Yes.
They'd been promised so much.
Yes.
What was it like inside television?
Well, it was very tense. Everyone was very tense. Not nervous, but tense, because we wanted it to be so right. And it went off very smoothly. It was very short. That first night, we only had Beryl Gray, who was a ballerina. She was touring New Zealand, and we got her in to be the
guest on,
and the Howard Morrison Quartet. And that was all there was, that first night. And we'd play the film in between. No advertising or anything like that.
Robin Hood.
And Robin Hood was the theme song. Yes.
Ah, right.
And we'd play that.
Margaret, thank you so much for coming in. Madge, thank you so much for coming in and telling us about it. I just have to shake this very, very historic hand. Well, historic, I mean lovingly.
Thank you.
I don't mean old, I mean important hand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Margaret.
All right.
Very much indeed.
Thank you.
How cool are those memories?
Isn't that wonderful? Interesting too that, that Margaret says that black and white was less forgiving than colour.
Yeah, yeah.
So imagine HD black and white.
Well, I also have here for colour television the makeup, and I don't think I'm getting my fair share.
Oh, no.
Down here, pancake or pan stick, one. Powder, dry rouge, eyeshadow, eyelash makeup. Eyelash makeup? I never get mine even combed.
No.
Moist rouge for lips.
No, you get one of those. All you get is a bit of a powder, isn't it?
I know, just a little tertiary glass.
But I mean,
we need to get you back.
As all our makeup artists will know, Paul is very low maintenance in the makeup room.
Good looking, you see. You start with someone that's good looking, and it's obviously going to be much easier.
Yes, yes. Right, up next for you, golfing gadgets, including this. No idea what it does, but apparently it will improve your swing and stamina on the course.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Sonic family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of his story. Let's ride with the family down the street through the...
Anyway, we will show you that shortly. We're going to go to Tamati right now, though, because he's got a very special guest with him this morning. My
yes,
goodness.
a very special guest, and this morning we're going the extra distance. We're doing the weather as it used to be done. We're being joined by Sue Scott, who, no pressure, Sue, but she's watching, and she's going to be watching while we give you a weather forecast like it used to be.
I'm taking notes, all right?
Okay. Be gentle.
Does he look the part?
Do I look the part, Paul and
tie?
Pippa?
Do you like the formality of the tie? And
I do. Weather is a very important thing.
Of course it is.
It should be treated with a certain seriousness.
That's right. And so you take your eyes off Tamati and you just listen to what he's saying. His beautiful enunciation and diction and presentation. That's the whole point, right?
I'll just go.
No,
I'm
Tamati
back.
dressed like that is going to impress so many people. There's going to be people out there who cannot take their eyes off Tamati this morning.
I tell you what, there were no hunks like this in my time, Pippa, that's for sure. Peter, no, I worked with Peter, of course, yes. Sorry,
So was New Zealand always green? In the very early days, was it green?
Green, as in... Oh, the map. No, it was a blue... For a start, it was a blue map, but I know you can't kind of do that now with, you know, lots of things behind it and things, but yeah, but look, I am feeling quite at home, a little bit anyway.
Yeah. Would you like
Yeah, I don't know, it's the stick I'm a bit worried about.
That's actually a broom handle, isn't it? So,
well, you know, they've gone overboard, that's for sure.
In the early days, was New Zealand the same shape as it is now?
I have to say to you that in my time we used to have to add Stewart Island in because all our Stewart Island listeners got very irate when we just say finish at Invercargill and go no further, and that was it. It was almost as if they didn't exist. So we had to really make a point of saying, hey, listen, guys, you do exist. But, yeah, the northern part looks pretty much the same to me. I don't think much has changed. Only the presenters.
All right, I'm going to get into this. We're going to attempt a weather forecast as it used to be done. Here we go. First of all, if there was an isobar map, what it would show you would be that there would be a low just crossing part through central New Zealand off the coast. That's where the frontal band that delivered all of that rain is going to lie about midnight tonight. There's a ridge of high pressure sitting out here in the Tasman Sea, but that's not going to make too much progress because down here in the Southern Ocean is another front, and that's the one to watch for. We'll start at the lower South Island and we'll work our way north. Firstly, there's a lot of cloud in the east of the South Island. That rain that happened overnight is going to dissipate into drizzle. Over on the west coast, though, it is the pick of the places to be. Lots of sun forecast there, all the way down to Milford Sound and including our friends on Stewart Island too.
Good one.
Moving up to the North Island, in the lower half of the North Island, there's still quite a lot of shower activity around. Lots of rain clouds overhead, whereas out in Gisborne, it's a nice fine day. For our folks in Tauranga and Whakatane, thankfully that rain has moved on and it's just going to be a mostly fine day. Still quite a few clouds around though, as is the case on the western coastline. However, up into the north a little bit later on in the day, Whangarei through to Kaitaia, we'll get a few scattered showers.
Tamati, I am really impressed on several counts. One, your Māori pronunciation is superb. We used to have to sit and do 6 intensive weeks of training before we were even allowed on the air. French, German and Māori pronunciation tests. Secondly, nothing dropped off. Yay! Nothing dropped off. This was the bane of... sorry. Yeah, that was the bane of our contention, but when little foibles like that happened. But also, you didn't have an autocue. You didn't have we didn't have autocues in those days either, but you didn't even have a script. I'm so proud of you. Very good. No autocue, no script, no producer yelling in your ear that you've said the wrong thing. I thought it was great. Oh, there we go. It did it itself.
Murphy's Law.
It's gone.
Yeah.
What's gone? No. We didn't see it. What's Stewart Island fallen off, is it?
No, Otago's disappeared, the whole peninsula. Sorry, folks.
No reading for Otago today. Do you want to know what the funny thing was? I had to carry this map in a bag on the plane yesterday, and this happened.
Oh, no. Dear. Oh, listen, we're not in earthquake territory yet, or volcanic eruption territory.
Northland's still there, though.
Poor Taupo. Well, it shows you where the most important part of New Zealand is.
Thank you very much. I can hear a lot of people in New Zealand saying, well, we can do without that part. Weather presenter.
Indeed.
A weather presenter from days gone by. I actually feel like Jim Hickey, I do. But this morning, if you've just woken up and joined us, we have been joined by Sue Scott, who is a weather presenter back from 1975 to 1986. And she's been joining us this morning. I've done the weather Sue's way. Sue is now going to read the weather the way that we do it here and now. So...
And are you going to mark me?
I'm going to mark you at the end of this. I do feel a bit weird doing that. But I am going to give it a... I'll give you a score at the end of it all.
OK. Well, listen up. Hi, everybody. It's really good to be back again after all those years. And now we're just going to have a look at today's weather for Wednesday, the 2nd of June. So we'll start off with a foggy start for most through here, and then it's mainly fine. Oamaru, different for you today. Cloudy and drizzle this morning and tonight. Fine and mostly sunny for the west, with high cloud gradually clearing Westport and Nelson. Rain easing in the east, around here, with just a high of 7 in Ashburton, so wrap up. South to southwesterlies for Kaikoura and Blenheim. And rain easing to the odd shower for most places in the lower North Island. Wellington, occasional rain, fresh southerlies and a high of 12, and it feels like a 2. Cloudy with morning and evening rain for Masterton, Hawke's Bay and Gisborne. They're fine with nor'westerly winds in those 2 last areas. Cloudy at times for Taupo, Rotorua and Tokeroa, maybe even the odd shower or 2, whereas Whakatane and Tauranga get a fine day to dry up great. And showers in the north with warm temperatures in the high teens. That rain might get thundery later, though, from Whangarei to Kaitaia. And then tomorrow we have some showers lingering around the North Island and the far south too, but mostly fine elsewhere. What a relief. And by Friday there are some showers lingering in the far north and the far south, but mostly fine everywhere else. How was that?
I have to give that a clap. I think you were awesome just then, Sue. In fact, I love the diction. You've got such amazing diction. I could only dream of having that kind of diction.
You're not too bad yourself. I think we'd just be sycophantic and pat ourselves on the back.
All right then, let's do that.
Hey, it's been great.
We're all TV people. We're all sycophantic all the time, darling. I did hear... Now, Sue, I heard you... I just heard a little bit of a Friday. Do you remember the time when we had to say D, not day, we had to say D?
Do you remember, and that came from Ken Green, who is, well, posthumously from Ken Green. Didn't come posthumously then, by the way. But no, he was the head of diction and pronunciation in the NZBC days. And yes, he made us sound like Fridays and Mondays, and they all sounded very, very false, don't you think, Paul?
Oh, they were terrible. And then, of course, they could never answer the questions from people like me who used to say, well, so is it a holiday or is it a holiday?
Yeah.
And then in the end, they decided to drop it. But the reason that they brought that in, Sue, I think, was because they were worried about the dark L, weren't they?
The dark L assimilation you're talking about?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
so I think they were just trying to make people speak proper.
But look, isn't it great that we can all communicate as ourselves au naturel today? That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
So
Oh, it's so good to see. It's so good to see you, Sue. What are you doing now? What are you doing?
Well, I'm the media manager and the editor of Boardroom magazine for the Institute of Directors, and I still do a little bit of news reading on Radio New Zealand. And I just love broadcasting, and I love words, and I love writing, and I love speaking, as you've no doubt gathered.
Fantastic. It's great to see you again.
Thanks.
Wonder technology has also come leaps and bounds.
To put it in perspective for you, this is what the cameras look like now. This was our newest introduction to the studio fleet. This is camera 1 with all of its latest technology. It is, of course, completely remote control, not as sophisticated as a golf trolley, but pretty sophisticated anyway. Lucas de Jong joins us now, as you know, and he has found some historic, that's not Lucas, that's an on-air sign, some historic equipment, Lucas.
I'm here, guys, I'm here. We're using the, you know, the creative, and down we come. Right, welcome to the Christchurch Museum of Television Technology. We're going to start off today with what is essentially a video player. Now, this is what the shows would come in from overseas. Say this was Coronation Street. Instead of chucking it in the rubbish or anything like that, which I'd suggest, we put it on these reels here. They'd get fed through this big system coming along here, down in through all the cogs and the levers, put on there, and up it goes. And when you get the call from the studio, you press the play button and it would roll out and it would go on air. This was used in around about the 70s, and it was just really what you'd send out most of your international television stuff on. It would all come off this tape right like this. Now, if we head over here, this is what we've got as a big lighting board. Now, these are one of the big behemoths of yesteryear. It was made in the 60s, and it was all used up in the 60s, and it was basically what they used for around about 10 years, all until they had pretty much, you know, oh, he's been up for too long, so they moved into these. They put it on the desk. Gary didn't have to break his back anymore. He could start pressing buttons down here, and it was no worries. Right, the cameras. Now, this is where the real core of TVNZ is. This is called the CP16. It was one of the very early cameras that was used, and of course it was film more than anything. Here you go, I've even got a little bit of film here for you, which is something well out of my generation. You've got all your little pictures, all your little bits and pieces there. Now, the old CP16 moved right on up through the cameras here in the 80s. Here's a couple of different studio cameras they used, and right up to what we use right now. This is an XD camera, and instead of being on film, it's on one of these XD cards. So all your information is stored there. But this seems to be my favourite. Now, we just saw in the studio what actually goes on with the big studio cameras that are all automated. This is the Marconi Mark IV. Now, it's an absolute behemoth. It was one of the first, and if you open them up, oh, there you go. You open up, you can see all what's inside. It's absolutely ancient, and if we want to change our views, it's a wind on the back. You go like that. It was one of the first 3 cameras ever used in Christchurch. So, there we go, guys.
Clever old
Any
you.
questions back there?
Clever old you. I wonder if you could even lift that. Just feel how heavy it is.
Honestly, we were trying to move it yesterday,
yeah, phenomenally
and they
heavy.
are just absolutely a behemoth. Watch.
All right. When I first...
I'm going to break your back.
It's not as heavy as I thought. That's only one piece of it, of course, but not as heavy as I thought. Thank you very much for that, Lucas. When I first started in television, the phrase that excited me the most was roll telecine. It's not said anymore, but that was the... I used to think, boy, it's really all happening now. All right, up next on Breakfast, the clothes that send out the right signals if you're heading out on a date. But right now, Stingray.
We are about to launch Stingray.
Well, as you probably know, this week we're marking the 50th anniversary of the official launch of television in New Zealand.
Peter Williams is TVNZ's longest-serving presenter, starting in TV1 Sport in the late 70s.
And tonight he remembers some early television experiences, plus some of the people he's worked with.
Television was a social event. You went to other people's place for a night out to watch their television set, because not every home had a TV set in those days. But you know, technically it was a bit rough around the edges. I remember going to a friend of my grandmother's in Christchurch one night and transmission broke down for some reason. We watched the clock, the black and white clock, tick for about an hour and a half. Some primetime entertainment that was.
And this will be shared by the government and the Auckland Regional Authority.
Dougal Stevenson just had a presence even as a young man, and when I first started watching him on television, he must have been in his 20s, but he had a presence, he had that magnificent diction which he retains to this day. Sadly, his career was about half as long as it should have been because of his aversion to living in Auckland.
Tonight on Homes, we meet the great yachtsman Dennis Connor in an interview that has its moments.
Thank you very much for having me.
But would you be interested in apologising to Mr. Farr in public, Mr. Connor, for that incident that happened last year?
Well, Paul Holmes has been the outstanding broadcaster in New Zealand television history during the 50 years. Holmes arrived on our screens really at just the right time, late in the 1980s. During the 1980s, New Zealand as a nation loosened up. We loosened up as far as our economy was concerned. We loosened up as far as our attitudes were concerned. The broadcasting industry was deregulated. We were ready for a more relaxed style of broadcasting, and Holmes brought that to us.
Fresh evidence might persuade government to have another appeal hearing.
Good evening.
Network News for Monday, March the 28th.
Judy is just an extraordinarily enduring personality. When you count her time on the top half with Hawkesby, which was just a northern regional show, you know, she was a primetime presence on our screens for 25 years. And that is quite remarkable that anybody could be in prime time virtually on a daily basis for a quarter of a century, for half the time that New Zealand television has existed. Well, I remember that the bosses were very scared about the way that television journalists would cover it. And even in sports, we were subject to extraordinary restrictions on what should be said, what could be said. And in fact, the news bosses were very keen to ensure that sports broadcasters kept their mitts out of the politics and the demonstrations that went on around that tour.
A terrorist attack. I can't tell you anything more than that.
The biggest series of terrorist attacks ever have hit the United States. Came into work at about 4:30. The troops were assembled. We knew it was going to be a long day. This was just an extraordinary news event happening on the other side of the world. But this network, and I'm very proud to have been a part of this network, to have played a role in our coverage of what happened in New York that day. The confirmed death toll has now risen to 156, but it is expected to rise further as emergency crews work frantically in the rubble of the World Trade Center in New York.
Well said, Pete. And tomorrow we'll look at some of the technical changes we've experienced in the first 50 years of television here.
Well, looking at our top stories.
But it does feature one of our presenters. Here's Gordon Harcourt playing the little boy in Close to Home.
Guess what, Mum? Ken's taking me fishing tomorrow.
Oh, well, aren't you a lucky boy?
I intend looking after myself tonight. Well, we've got a good weather forecast. High tide of 4:30. We're going to have a great afternoon, right?
Right.
It's okay. We'll start the party without them, right?
Right.
Corin. Thank you to Dean. Well, he featured in our very first television drama, Pukumanu, and became a household name in the soap opera Close to Home. Yes, how could we forget that theme song as well? Jim Moriarty has appeared on our screens off and on ever since, and he joins us now to reminisce about 5 decades of New Zealand drama. But first, here's a bit of a reminder for you.
Oh. Snap! Yes, please. Here, please. Look, I want to report a stolen car.
Jim, take us back to television in those years. It is often called the golden years. What was it like to be part of a big show like that then?
Well, it was kia ora koutou.
Kia ora to you too.
Yeah, atamaria koutou. Well, it was just great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, getting paid to go to work and have fun, be creative. The actors in those days, you know, made a huge contribution to what happened on the floor, what the product looked like by the end of it. And as probably one of the few Māori on television way back then, my views and opinions were valued, and I appreciated that at the time. It was truly a lot of fun. Well, you know, where else can you get a job where you get paid for being creative, playing in your sandpit and having a lot of fun? And Close to Home was like that. It was a huge training ground for lots and lots of people. And I see when I came in here today in the studio here, there's Sharon. Sharon was around in those days. You know, it's good to see people, and lots of people got trained. I think the industry today has been propped up and fueled by a lot of the stuff that happened way back then.
Did it propel you to sort of massive stardom? I mean, what was it like? I mean, there wasn't a lot of options back then in terms of entertainment.
No, it was. You're right. I mean, it was probably the first ongoing soap opera of its kind. You were a star in your own street, in your own suburb, in your own city. And in New Zealand, for example, it's different today. I mean, we're much more global, much more international, and that's a damn good thing. But I had a simple philosophy. I would respond to people in the street if they came up to me based around the genuineness, the politeness of their inquiry, and you just dealt with it. If you didn't like it, move on.
The 70s was, you know, a progressive period, I suppose. What were the themes of Close to Home? I mean, how far did it push those barriers that, you know, like we see with Shortland Street now, I suppose?
Real good question. It was contemporary. I mean, I think there was maybe only a week or two turnaround in some of the stuff. We used to shoot the whole thing live in Avalon in the set, you know, the whole episode, scene to scene. And if somebody blew it badly, you had to go right back to the start. It was like live theatre in a way. Well, there was all the, you know, the stuff around the mighty Renaissance and art and politics and health and education. And we were a part of that. And we were allowed to contribute to that. I remember coming down to the big land march, you know, and they gave me a few hours off the set so I could go down there and absorb it and, of course, bring it back and reflect it to the writers. And you'd see in a week or two that stuff was translated into character dialogue. It was really exciting times. We got to work closely with writers, directors, producers, everybody, really. It was a big, happy family.
Just coming back to that issue about you being a Māori actor at the time, so you were on your own a little bit there, were you?
Pretty much initially I was. I can remember there were maybe 2 or 3 Māori in the building. Was that safe? Anyway, people like Marama, I think, Martin was reading the news. Tina was somewhere in the mix. There was me. It increased as the years went by. But, oh, look, I just, you know, I was milking cows and I've been working in Hamilton. I arrived in Avalon, you know, there were this opportunity to get on down. Prior to that, I'd been in Pukimanu in the late 60s. So it was just so much fun, you know. You enjoy your job, for example?
Absolutely, I know exactly what you mean.
I did.
Talking about Pukimanu, watching that on the Film Archive site, I mean, it's amazing that, like, the opening credits, you know, it's a logging town. And it's billed as a bit of a, on their billing as a boozy, bicultural slice of New Zealand life. Was that how it was?
Well, in terms of the real situation in New Zealand at the time, you know, maybe it was. I haven't been a forestry worker, I don't know. But in terms of what we were trying to represent, again, the writers, you know, did all the research. You know, we went out to Martinborough, we went into the forest, all those sorts of things to try and capture the reality of it. I guess, you know, does television reflect what's going on in the world around us? Probably, yes,
does it still, though? I mean, in terms of a drama on New Zealand television, do you think we're still pushing the boundaries, I guess, in the good ways, dealing with those big issues?
I think so, and I think we have to. I think our audiences demand it. I mean, the thing about television now, so many channels, so many choices. You could surf all day, all night and not actually watch anything. I think it's just about the audience making the choices. There is something in there for everyone. You just have to, you know, do that research. I mean, I've got young kids still, and we don't let them watch everything. You know, we encourage them to make choices about what's going to be more informative and entertaining versus just the sensational stuff, you know. But public service television in those days, I think, had a mandate to actually deliver a certain amount of New Zealand, you know, drama.
What about actors? I mean, were the actors such as yourself sort of formally trained when they came through? Was that all? Because there wasn't a lot of background, you know, a lot of history to go on.
No, I think the New Zealand Drama School, you know, wasn't born when I first started acting back in the, I think, 67. I did my first professional job, but we learned, you know, there were thousands of people directed us. There was lots and lots of people. I think about Pat Everson, you know, God rest her soul. I'm going to her tangi tomorrow. You learnt from your fellow actor. You know, you had to get it right in television. It was that simple. I understand things like Shorten Street, faster turnaround. But a lot of that stuff, particularly with Māori, was a precursor, I think, to Māori television today, and later on into the 80s, you know, I was part of things like The Protesters, Death of the Land and The Gathering, and those things actually set up Māori television as we know it today. And isn't it a wonderful landscape for all of us that there are so many options?
It is indeed. Thank you very much, and kia ora to you, Jim Moriarty. Thank you for reminiscing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Corin. Tēnā koe.
Cheers.
And I tell you what, Jim Moriarty doesn't look any older than he did close to home.
Amazing. Amazing.
30 plus years ago.
He must have been.
A bit of a heartthrob now, isn't he? Right, coming up for you, plans for trams in Auckland, how to make money out of your old cell phones, and we cook up a classic West Coast breakfast.
It's vital that a sportsman's clothes don't impede his freedom of movement. That's why Bob Charles wears the action slacks and shirts made to suit sportsmen. Bob Charles...
Tonight we're continuing our celebration of 50 years of television in New Zealand with a look at technology.
From those first days of grainy black and white images to today's crisp colour and on-demand technology, we look at the changes in between. As TV viewers, we're now used to a fast pace, what we in the trade call quick edits, with innovative use of sound and flash ways of changing shots. But it wasn't always this way.
After a 3 weeks trip away, do you think you've come back with what you set out to get? Well, when I left, I said that I saw some prospect of some progress. That was a cautious statement, and I think I can say that we've done perhaps better than we expected.
Since TV started in New Zealand 50 years ago, we've seen enormous changes in technology. Those early days saw 4 separate regional channels operating in the then 4 main centres. Now, thanks to Freeview and Sky, we have our choice of more than 100 channels. Computers and cell phones mean we can get our favourite shows and news on demand.
Let's get into the south side of the Bye-bye to MCR. Are you ready to record? We're recording. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. We get almost instant live access to breaking news events, something that 50 years ago was impossible and frankly unimaginable. These live trucks, though, not always needed. We can send live digital images back via microwave or even using the internet from pretty much anywhere in the world. That wasn't possible when TV started here in 1960. Until 1971, when the satellite receiving station was built in Warkworth, north of Auckland.
Soon, the regular 20 minutes a day of overseas news will be expanded to a 24-hour-a-day feed of programme material.
The next big milestone was the introduction of colour TV, in time for the 1974 Commonwealth Games in Christchurch. Then, in 1980, another huge advance.
Yes, the transition from film to tape allowed multi-camera productions. So you could automatically see what you'd recorded, and then that reduced the cost of production, you know, and gave us a production industry.
Now, tape is almost obsolete, with camera operators like Lee here moving to shoot their images onto disc. Thank you, Lee. Their pictures can then be stored digitally in the newsroom, thank you, Jane, and accessed by reporters and producers right around the country who can edit at their desks or even in the field. And thanks to the internet, we're able to get pictures from you and get them back to our TV and online audiences within minutes. Once we've got the pictures, it's up to you how you watch them. On your giant LCD screen, a projector, your cell phone, laptop or home PC.
And tomorrow night we'll take you back through 50 years of television sport.
All right, looking at tonight's top stories now. A family feud could be to...
Went to a party last night, I say, young man, he got a hell of a fright because someone kicked him out the back door because he had no rules with him. You see, the party was a BYOG. You see, the party was a BYOG.
Very, very funny man. Well, he is associated with some of the biggest moments in New Zealand's television history. He was a news anchor when the Erebus flight went down and a Commonwealth Games host when Kiwis got their first glimpse of colour television. He also helped reinvent the hit show Top Town. Well, Bill McCarthy joins me now. I'd probably be talking for about 10 minutes if I tried to explain all of the bits of television over the past 50 years you've been involved in it. Oh, 48, I should say.
48, yes. Yeah, 1961, I actually walked through the door of radio. We didn't have television in Dunedin in 1961.
61. So I joined as a cadet in January of 1961. So in 62, television came along, and it was just a natural progression that people went and did both, actually, for years and years. Actually, it was up until 1973 when I became a full-time television person. Up till that stage, we alternated. We did radio in the morning and television at night.
Amazing. Now you are still involved in television.
Yeah, I make television. I made a lot of television for Sky Sport in the early days. I make it for the Arts Channel. I do religious programming. Yeah, I'm still involved. I like to get out in the water and shoot stuff here.
You've been involved in front of the camera and behind the camera. You've been involved in news programs, sports programs, entertainment programs.
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's anything you haven't done.
Yeah, well, it's an unusual one. I mean, I came in for quite a bit of criticism at the time when I went from sport. You asked me a specific question, I'll try to answer it. When I went from sport to news, how did that work? And a lot of people thought it didn't. Well, from 75 to 80, I read the network news. Dougal and I alternated. Things I haven't done, we had different departments then. We had an entertainment department, we had a features department in those days, in the 70s. And I don't think I ever did work for the features department, but I certainly worked for a few others.
And of course, there's still time. Can you pinpoint a favourite job? Was there one job that you loved above the others?
I was always a sports commentator. Sport is my love, classical music is my passion. So working with the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra in those 4 or 5 years from 80 to 85, when I went back into sport, they were great years. When I had loose rein, as it were, with our outside broadcast vans and so on, to go and do symphony orchestra concerts. And you know, we don't do anything now. You don't even put a minute on now on network television. We used to have a lot. I started a thing called the Young Musicians Competition, all our young, very talented young musicians in 1982, and that ran every second year for many years.
Yes.
And it might interest you to know that that was in prime time on a Sunday night.
Oh, I remember it. I
7
remember
o'clock.
it well.
Can you imagine classical music doesn't even get 1 minute, let alone 7 o'clock on a Sunday night? It rated its head off.
What we just saw some pictures of was, of course, the 1974 Commonwealth Games, which were...
There's not many left. Pictures, I mean.
Really?
Very, very little tape was left.
What happened?
Well, in those good old, bad old days, we were using 2-inch tape. We went to 1-inch colour tape. The tapes were hugely expensive and had to be reused.
Really?
I mean, and literally, we didn't have storage systems like you've got today. Stick it on a 500 gigabyte hard drive and you got the lot. Not in those days. So basically, it was recorded over. So it was very little remained.
It was recycling. Was that, because that was in colour, obviously a very significant moment for New Zealanders watching.
Yep.
How significant was it for you as a broadcaster?
Well, no, it didn't really make a heck of a lot of difference. A lot of it was in black and white, but some of it was in colour. So it was a very strange hybrid mixture. Colour coming along was, you know, definitely benefited a big event like the Commonwealth Games. And, you know, the first day when we won Dick Taylor won the 10,000 metres in front of a stacked stadium, it was, you know, I mean, the whole thing got off to a great start. So, I mean, the actual techniques you used were no different at all. I had 5 different coloured jackets, which I used to alternate. Yeah, I used to put a purple one on.
Of course, you had to wear different clothes.
Well, yeah, yeah, I was the sole host. I was the front man for the whole thing. So, but it was quite strange. I still got those jackets, by the way. I don't fit into them, but I've still got them. We had a gold one it was a gold-coloured one when we had medal ceremony. It was quite, you know, bizarre when I think back on it, but it seemed to be a very good idea at the time.
It was what you did. You were also a news presenter when the Erebus disaster happened.
Yeah.
Do you remember that day very clearly?
Yeah, absolutely, like it was yesterday. It was in '79, and in mid-afternoon, this plane hadn't returned, and I started to go on just little updates until the 6:30 bulletin, when we knew it had run out of fuel, and it had to be down. And I saw a newsroom swing into action. I mean, it was a terrible tragedy. It obviously was, but it was my week on, as it were. And in some of those big things, like the Wahine in '68, they brought on senior announcers to read the news if it was a very big one, but they didn't replace me. So, yeah, I guess I was the bringer of the very bad news about Erebus that day in '79.
You were. It's interesting when major events, news events happen like that, a lot of the country stands still, whereas the people who are bringing the news are busier than they have ever been.
Exactly, Pippa. I mean, we just put our heads down, and people were looking at insurance claims and the funeral arrangements, recovering everything and so on. Everyone had their head down. And, you know, it was a difficult time, but a time really that television you know, it really came into its own because we had the whole nation. We were the source. I'm sorry, but we were. And it was a time that we knew a tremendous number of people were listening very intently to everything we had to say, so we had to be very, very careful about the wording of everything.
Do you, because you have so many interests, you know, you've talked about music, sport and yachting, do you watch much television these days?
Gosh, you'll have to ask my wife that and she'll just go, just roll her eyes. I've got to be brutally frank. I don't watch mainstream media much, but I certainly watch, I watch Fox News a lot. Yeah, I watch, yeah, I'd love to have the tech. I'd love to be part of the technology you now have with computers and cameras running around the studio.
You look around and we have
I look around and the cameras are remotely running around the studio. There's no one here. Yeah, I'm not quite answering your question. Yeah, I watch a bit of television. I'd like to watch the things I like to watch. That sounds very glib.
No, but I guess now you have the choice to watch.
There's a lot of choice, yeah. There was no choice. I mean, I was reading Jim Hopkins this morning, you know. You literally used to go down in the early days and stand outside shop windows. I mean, you've heard that before from other people, but, you know, now, I mean, in niche channels, you watch history or documentary channels and food channels, you know, so you've got so much choice. I still watch a lot of sport. I certainly watch the Super 14 and the All Blacks and so on, but, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Bill, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It's been an honour to have you in here with us.
Thank you very much.
I like the way, Bill, you mentioned sport is your love, music is your passion. What's the difference? I mean, there's a subtlety there.
Yeah, I thought that, Corinne, I think there's quite a big difference. I absolutely, if you said, what's your dream job? I'd like to be rung up by a television channel, preferably the Arts Channel, and said, you've got a full-time job producing and directing classical music or you know, that would...
It's an obsession almost.
Yeah, it's an obsession. I've just loved it since I was very young. And I married a concert pianist. My daughter's a world-class violinist. She's in London at the moment. So, I mean, it is part of my life. But sport, I love to watch. I can't remember when I last went to a game.
Soak it up.
You know, because I don't want to queue. But I just want to watch the replays too. You don't get replays too much at the ground. But yeah, but my dream job would be to...
I think I understand. I like that. That's a good way of putting it.
Corinne shares your loves and your passions.
Oh, really?
Sport, definitely. Maybe not classical music, but certainly music. The 8 o'clock news is next, and then the Kiwi country music star making it big in Nashville. This is going to be good.
She was the one who played Blanche Devereaux. Betty White is the only surviving Golden Girl, so enjoy this. Take care and have a wonderful long weekend.
The actress who played feisty Southern Belle Blanche in the hit TV series The Golden Girls has died. Emmy Award-winning Rue McClanahan suffered a stroke in New York. She was 76. Here's ABC's Diane Sawyer.
Every once in a while, someone takes a TV stereotype and turns her into a member of the family.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you.
Rue McClanahan as the man-hungry Blanche Devereaux was a kind of gladiator for vitality at any age.
Mr. Nesbitt. You hate me because I'm beautiful, don't you?
Born in Oklahoma, the daughter of a beautician and construction worker, she was married and divorced 5 times and once told Robin Roberts,
I thought I had to have a man in my life. And, you know, you don't get married out of insecurity. Don't get married, you know, for any reason other than you are a complete person. Yeah.
Last year, when Bea Arthur died, she joined us to say how Bea had given her confidence.
I watched her go farther than I would have dared to do. And I thought, my Lord, that's brave.
Today, Betty White said Rue's departure hurts more than I even thought it would, if that's possible. Only one Golden Girl left. But so many thank yous for being our friend.
And Betty White, who played Rose.
Well, as you probably know, this week we've been celebrating the launch of television in New Zealand 50 years ago. And tonight we pay tribute to our sportsmen and women.
Here's half a century of highlights with a couple of low points as well. And just a quick note, because of time constraints, this is by no means a complete record of this country's many sporting achievements.
Some dreams.
Just short of the line, there's a dive. Wait at the try. The try to New Zealand.
But here's the greatest left-hander in the world.
Those dreams you
Great! Look at that try! Oh! New Zealand coming up, and New Zealand have won the gold medal.
The first live test telecast screened by the NZBC network.
whatever it takes. Follow through with the promise I made. Put it all on the line. What I hope for at last would be.
New Zealand's first great victory.
If I could reach higher.
John Walker wins the 1500 metres gold medal.
Some naked aggression with this spanking performance.
That's a disappointing finish. Tried my very best. Put my spirit to the test. If I could reach. It's into the stands again. Some days are meant to be remembered.
Gold medal! 4 gold medals at Olympics for Ian Ferguson.
We rise above the stars.
Nobody punches harder than New Zealand's own David Tua.
So I'll go the distance this time. Seeing more, the higher I climb. That the more I believe, all the more that this dream will be mine. If I could reach higher, just for one moment touch the sky. From that one moment,
Daniel Loader for the second time.
I'm gonna be stronger. Know that I've tried.
Place Olympic champion, Sally Clark for New Zealand holds the silver medal.
And Team New Zealand retains the heavyweight crown of world sailing. The America's Cup is still New Zealand's cup.
Black gold, Rob Waddell of New Zealand.
We're in the top 4. Unquestionably the best team in the world.
Just for one moment, touch the sky. That one moment in my life, I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna be so much stronger, yes I am.
New Zealand, it's a photo finish. New Zealand have won it.
If I could reach, reach and reach and reach and reach and reach so much higher.
Last. It's taken 54 years, but they've finally done it.
Magic stuff.
And for tomorrow night's final piece in our series, we look back at some of the big world events of the past 50 years.
All right, recapping tonight's top stories now. Trade Minister Tim Gross.
Of course, we all knew that, didn't we? Tonight, the final in our week-long series marking the 50th anniversary of television in New Zealand.
We'll showcase 50 years of television milestones and key world events that gave rise to amazing TV pictures. So here it is, 5 decades in 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Ask not what your country country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Well, shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout.
Country Calendar was aimed more at the farming audience. The chairman of the West Pakistan Red Cross, Lady Noon, said many Pakistanis left their homes for India in the belief the grass was greener.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Princess Anne was the first of the royal children to marry, shared a common interest in horses, although in later life it seems little else.
From the TV Centre, Avalon, this is Television One.
The first telethon raised over $500,000 for St John Ambulance and set the pattern for TV2's most successful venture.
It will show the world the plight in which our Maori people in Aotearoa have been subject to.
Sorry, Joe.
Let me pass.
One antidote to the increasing commercialism of television was a program for consumers started in 1977.
I came to the ultimate view that I had been told by certain groups of witnesses for Air New Zealand an orchestrated litany of lies.
Miss New Zealand is Miss Universe. Congratulations, Miss New Zealand.
I believe that television has done more than any other mass media communication to promote things Maori.
The liftoff appeared flawless. Suddenly, an explosion. Within seconds, Challenger disintegrates.
Well, a great hometown victory and a great moment for rugby in New Zealand.
Five months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined.
Is it you or is it me? Lately I've been lost, it seems. I think a change is what I need. If I'm looking for a chance or a dream, short life stream.
And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps.
That is about as frightening a scene as you will ever see.
This is real. This is shock and awe, Tom.
No, Saddam! No, Saddam! Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bush.
And so, to all the other peoples and governments who are watching today, from the grandest capitals to the small village where my father was born, know that America is a friend of each nation and every man, woman, and child who seeks a future of peace and dignity, and we are ready to lead once more.
incredible, isn't it? Looking at our top stories tonight, tough new...
Could get down into the streets of Queenstown and Wanaka, so buckle up and wrap up warm, campers. We've got 2 rough days coming up. First of all, the rains in tonight, the first of it. Oh, darn. Just hang on a minute. just talk to Granny there. Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Hang on. Sorry, I should have just jumped ahead of it. I'm all excited about this crazy weather. So the first heavy rains in tonight, top of the South Island, and then, of course, across the national parks of the North Island tomorrow, into the Bay of Plenty. Unfortunately, more coming for you, and northern parts of Gisborne. So let's go to our satellite imagery now. We've got a major intersection pile-up.